Hi guys, the Metal Maniac back again, and welcome to another music collection update. Without further ado, I'm just going to get right into it. So first up is the album Violence Enforced by Exciter. Yeah, I really love their first album, and I've already listened to this. I'm not going to say too much about it because I haven't done a review of it yet, obviously, but yeah, just got this recently. Well, not recently, but, well, I guess relatively recently. Anyway, but yeah. Also, for some reason, other than their first two albums, for whatever reason, it's really hard to find most of the other Exciter albums in stores. I don't know. But, yeah, this is their second one. Alright. Next up is the album Devastated Graves, The Morbid Celebration by Nocturnal Blood. This is a pretty obscure black metal band, and this is their first album, and currently it's their only album. This is a relatively newer black metal band. I don't remember when this one was released, but yeah, this is a relatively newer band, so like I said, they only have one album out so far. Hold on. Oh, alright. So now, the thing that actually, really drew me in to actually just buy this in the first place was the album art. Look at that. That is amazing. Kind of also looks like those, classic sort of woodcut carvings a bit. Just the way the texturing in the actual images. Also, something really cool, another thing that's really cool is the actual logo for the band, Nocturnal Blood. Like, the actual Nocturnal Blood logo. You can't quite make it out. I mean, you can if you look really closely. But this says Nocturnal Blood. You have to really look very closely. But yeah, it says Nocturnal Blood. But also, the logo is also in the shape of a skull. Which is pretty cool. One of the more unique logos I've come across. Yeah. Alright. Next up is the album Crimes Against Reality by Game Over. Another newer metal band. This one's a thrash band. They only have 4 albums out so far. And I believe this is their second or third album. I'm not entirely sure, but it's either second or third. Also, look at that logo. That logo actually reminds me of the Glory Hammer logo. Yeah, Glory Hammer, yeah, they're two completely different genres of metal. Glory Hammer's power metal, this is thrash metal, but this reminds me so much of the Glory Hammer logo. Especially on Rise of the Chaos Wizards, where the logo on that album is pretty much the exact same green color and has a similar font to it as well. But yeah, also really love the artwork overall too. Also, this is the only other band I've come across that's from Italy. There's one other band from Italy that I know of. That's my favorite glam metal band, Hallowed. But yeah, pretty interesting. To come across another Italian metal band. Alright. Next up is the debut album by the band Therion. Therion is one of those bands that started out as something, but then became something completely different. They started out as a pretty much traditional old school death metal band, but by their third album, they kind of ditched the traditional death metal sound and sort of incorporated a lot more sort of atmospheric and operatic style of metal. I mean, they still technically at their core are a death metal band, but it's more, again, it's more operatic, melodic, technical kind of thing, as opposed to how they started out with, you know, just a more straightforward traditional death metal sound. Their second album also is similar to this one in style. Their third album, they're a little bit more symphonic and a little bit more operatic. Maybe not symphonic, but operatic. Yeah, the first couple albums are really, really good. But later on, after, I'd say around their fourth or fifth album, they kind of go a little bit overboard with the operatic stuff and just not my thing. But yeah, their first couple albums, their first three, I guess, are actually really, really good. Alright, next up is another underrated band, another underrated death metal band, and that's Gutted, with their debut album, Bleed For Us To Live. Gutted was pretty short-lived. They only ever had 2 albums, and technically speaking, this is their only full-length. They did release a second album in 1997. This one was from 1994. Their second album was 1997. But I refuse to consider it a full-length album. Well, their second album. I refuse to consider their second album a full-length, mainly because with the main track listing, it's only 6 songs. And, of course, everyone knows that the minimum amount of songs to consider an album a full-length is 8 songs. And it's only and their second album was only 6 songs. Yeah, sure, their second album has a bunch of bonus tracks. But because the main album is only 6, I would consider their second album a 6-track EP with a bunch of bonus tracks. But yeah, so as for full lengths, this is really their only true full length. Also, this is a pretty hard album to find. Like, I don't know. Oh, wait. Oh, it says it right here. This is number 736 out of 1,000. So, oh, this is not an original, by the way. This is a re-release. And yeah, as like I said, it's limited to 1,000 copies. Yeah, if you could find this album, definitely, you know, buy it, because it's definitely one of the more underrated, but also really great, death metal albums. Not gonna say too much about it. I haven't reviewed it yet, but, yeah, awesome album. Alright. So, lastly this isn't an album, but it is music related. And, it's the book called, Codex Metallium. It's about, I mean, it's really just about, you know, the art of album covers, you know, album artwork. But it came with this, which is basically just, you know, the thing that wrapped around it, and it has, you know, the description of the book. But don't let the description fool you, because it is not really what it says it is. So the book is basically, it just describes, you know, it has a selection of like 200 and something metal album artworks, and it talks about them. But the description is very dishonest. Here, I'll read it for you. It says, metal music has a powerful visual language, like no other genre. From death and the devil to mythology and the occult, a complex code of icons and symbols adorns artworks of its greatest albums. Now, that part is not the dishonest part. The second part is. The second part says, featuring 250 album covers and illustrations. Oh, it says, this unique guide decodes the imagery of metal and its secret. No, wait, hold on. Where the hell? Oh, here. Oh, yeah, sorry, it was the first part. It says, the greatest metal albums. Now, you would think because this is, you know, a book and it's not supposed to be, you know, well, it's made out to be an objective list, not a subjective list. So the way it's described as it's subjective, right? Like, just overall the greatest, you know, in terms of just the numbers and the, you know, facts, whatever. But It's not that. Like, it says, it makes it, the description, hold on, give me a second. Alright, sorry about that. Anyway, so the description sounds like it's supposed to be from an objective point of view, but it's actually a subjective point of view. Like, it says metal's greatest albums, but if you look in here, if you look, just what's in here, most of it is not what you would expect from, you know, like I said, an objective point of view. And a lot of these albums are pretty obscure as well. Not all of them, but quite a lot of them. So, even though it is definitely a good read, the description is very deceptive. And like I said, it makes it out to be, you know, objective, but judging from the contents, it's not objective, it's subjective. Like, in here, it's really just, you could really tell by the selection of album artworks, it's more or less just the artist's personal favorite album artworks, and not a objective list. And then there's some even really odd choices in here. Especially, I can't find it at the moment, but there's a Marilyn Manson album in here, or album artwork, and Marilyn Manson isn't even metal. So not only is the description, you know, not what it says it is, but it's also, there's also a couple albums in here that aren't even metal albums. So you really get the feeling that whoever wrote this, or can't find the name, but whoever wrote this, the author, clearly didn't quite know what they were talking about. Also, another weird thing about this book is the fact that, also by the description, it sounds like it would like go into excruciating detail and like behind the scenes of like album arts and stuff like that. It sounds like it would be an extremely in-depth detail on all these album artworks, but it's actually not. It is not at all. It's just, it features some album artworks, but when you actually look at like what's written in here about them, it's very, very standard, very vague, very just it just talks about what you really see on here, you know, what you see, for example, these things. It just describes what you're already seeing on the page and doesn't really go into much detail. So while it's an interesting read, you know, for just, you know, overall, it is very much not what it's intended to be, and the description is very, very, you know, wrong. But yeah, again, despite my criticisms and the obviously intent of the author not knowing what they're talking about, it's still interesting nonetheless. But if you're looking for an extremely in-depth analysis on album artworks, this is not it. If you're looking for an objective list, this isn't it. But if you're just looking for a very sort of like, if you're just looking for just a relatively interesting sort of look into some album arts, and you don't really care if it's like extremely detailed in description, and you don't really care that it's like, you know, sort of a weird gathering of album arts, this is definitely, you know, just a very interesting read overall. But yeah. Interesting read despite its very deceiving nature, I guess. Alright, so that's about it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.